When asked about adding value to commodities such as cocoa and cashew before exporting so as to increase the inflow of foreign currency, another set of complaints show up.
Well, there are issues surrounding industrialization in Nigeria. There are issues surrounding manufacturing, value addition. You need power. You need to be competitive.
I think there is need to deregulate the issue of power here in this country, because the discourse will tell you that, oh, they've spent some billions of dollars, billions of naira, they borrow money from the bank. And you see, when you have this issue, and like even a typical businessman or woman, once you borrow money from the bank and the interest rate is piling, it's a big problem, because how do you now service that? They're going to pass it on to the final consumer. And the final consumers will start crying that, look, things are not avoidable, they are very expensive. And the only way I can tell you this. For example, people have started looking for the alternative source of power. In Ogun State, for example, we just commissioned one that, some areas will now have this power generation, private power generation, independent power plant, which we have done. We have one that we just established at Rinjongonjongo that will power so many areas. Then some of these industries, they found another alternative. They have these clusters, 5-7 megawatts, and they now put it there, and they use gas to run. I went to a factory yesterday. They are going to be producing PET resin, and their 500 kVA generator is being powered by gas. They've looked for the alternative, and it's a cheaper source of power for them, and they do it 24/7. So organizations are now looking, they are not waiting on government anymore, because it's very expensive when you wait for government to run your business with power, because people buy diesel, and you can imagine how much it costs, and you have to pass it to the final consumer.
Cost of fund poses a problem to business people. This, they say, seemed to have escaped the attention of the federal government in the ongoing process to ease doing business.
There is no business anywhere in the world that can grow without funding from banks. But unfortunately in Nigeria, banks now prefer to give the money to the federal government. They use it to buy treasury bill, because they get 18%, 21% as returns, than for them to give it to a business person at 24, 26%. And if the interest rate is too high, nobody will make any profit. It's going to be lost. So banks are safer giving the money to the federal government than to lend it out to businesses.
The cost of funds in the banking industry is high. You and I, if we have loose funds and we want to place it in bank, we are looking for the highest rate. So if for example, you have 10 million naira, you want to place it in the bank, you'll be shopping for the highest rate. The bank will take it from you, let's say at 10%. They are going to borrow the businessman. Probably they have to spread on it. NDIC premium is there, because when you keep, so the cost on single deposit is high. So what we need to do is that, how do we get cheap funds? And once you have excess funds in the system too, then you see them running after foreign exchange. The rate of foreign exchange will go up. So MRR, so the minimum discount rate is the problem, the issue. That's why it's been on 14% since. And people wanted it, because the moment you put it down, yes, I agree with you, that means cost of borrowing is high. But this demand is the function of demand and supply. When the banks are getting the money from their customers, they get that at an higher rate, because for example, if I have loose money, I want to maximize my return on it. And even now, it's even so bad, because people are now investing in treasury bills, T-bills, because it's even more expensive, it's more attractive than banks' deposit rate, because banks can give maximum 10% or 11%. But at the same time, they still look at the cost. There are so many hidden costs in keeping funds. So that is the problem. So the first thing we should do is that to ensure that funds are being made available with single digit rate.
In 2013, 2014, there was this CAX. It was put in place by the then CBN governor, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi. You can borrow this fund at 9%. They gave it to banks at 7%. The bank put 2% on it, and it was a very fantastic arrangement. so many exporters grew, including us. It really helped us to grow to this level we have. Now they withdrew it and everybody paid back. I don't think anybody is owing the money because the rate was 9%. Now they took it and people have to be replaced. It has to be replaced by 26% interest rate. Nobody, no business can survive on interest of 26%.
State governments have embraced the issue of making the environment friendly to investors. Some of them have deliberately put out some policies to help.
Someone that is coming into your state to invest, his first impressions matters most. When he comes and he's been kind of being welcomed with dilapidated structures, lack of good roads, and of course, the next thing he might have a rethink on whether to come and invest or not. And that is why our able governor took it upon himself that first priority is to develop infrastructure as a key to supporting investors that are coming into Adamawa State. We have achieved that. And then two, he's even willing also to provide the needed incentive to any interested investors. To an extent, he even goes extra mile to lead some of the meetings as a way of encouraging them, or rather giving them a prompt decision into whatever incentive that they might ask. And a couple of investors have come into Adamawa State. Discussion is ongoing, and we believe that we'll soon start to see the benefits.
We look at the issue of getting taxes. Some are for tax people, they just invade everything. In Ogun State, for example, we have harmonized our taxation. I mean, making things frustrating for them, we have stopped that. So what we need to do is that we need to sustain that. Sustainability is very key, it's very important. And the only way we can sustain that is to ensure that things are done seamlessly, and at the same time, we have regular meetings with the stakeholders. We meet on quarterly basis with MAN. So these are the things, so that we can sort things out for them, we can resolve their issues.
They will come behind us, yeah?
As a way forward, the exporters have some suggestions, which they say, if implemented, will boost agriculture exports in the country.
If we can take each of these commodities, put serious attention on it, and provide policies around it, okay, rather than a generalistic one. I was canvassing for instance, for cashew now, a national cashew council that looks into everything that has to do with cashew, looks into production, looks into the issues of the farmers of cashew, okay, the funding for the farmers, the issue of quality, production generally, training, extension services. Are you following me? Helping them, providing the necessary platforms for drying. Each of these communities have their own unique issues, even though there are still similar issues that they have. Okay, then you begin to look at the area of marketing. How do you keep ensuring sustainable market?
The cries of exporters and manufacturers in Nigeria is still loud, but hopefully in a short time, the efforts of the government on the ease of doing business will reduce their pains. That's our story for this episode of Big Story. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ini John McQuarrie.